Hello, my name is Anniken and welcome to another needle review. Today I'm going to review the brand Lykke, which is an American brand, but the word Lykke actually means happiness or joy in Norwegian. Knitting needles can vary a lot in price. Is it worth buying the more expensive ones, or are you better off just buying the cheaper ones? I've been teaching in yarn shops for years, and I quite often see knitters come in to buy yarn and then they just get the cheapest needles available. And I'm not always sure whether the cheapest needles are the best ones, but is paying extra for needles really worth it? In this new series I'm going to review my favourite knitting needle brands. I'm going to focus on reviewing the needles that I use and enjoy using myself, which is Chagoo, which I've already done. So the Chagoo review has already been posted and you can find the link to that below. I'm also going to review Nipro because they're such a huge brand, and the majority of the knitting needles you find in yarn shops now tend to be Nipro. And I'm also going to review Higher. I will link to all the different needle reviews below as I do them. I also did a video a few weeks ago on circular needles and why and how to knit with them. I use circular needles exclusively now. I never use straight needles at all. I don't even use double pointed needles anymore. I just use circular needles. So if you've been wondering whether it's worth changing to circulars or not, I'll link my video below called Circular Needles, How and Why. It also shows you how to knit with circular needles and why I think they're great. So all the other needle reviews will be listed below each video as I do them. There's also a separate playlist on YouTube. So if you go to my channel and click on playlist, there is a video there called Circular Needles and Reviews. And I'm also going to list them on my website, which is YarnAddict.co.uk, on the tutorials page, which I'll link below as well. I'm going to focus on reviewing circular needles because that's what I've got. So all the needles I'm reviewing them from the point of view of circular needles. And today it is the turn of Lykke. As I said, it's an American company, but the word actually means happiness or joy in Norwegian. First came across Lykke probably about 4 years ago, and I ordered a pair of fixed circular ones, fixed circular needles in 2.5mm size. To knit socks with. So I wanted to use them to knit socks using the magic loop technique, and I really liked them. They were really nice to knit socks with. And then about 3.5 years ago I went on a conference in London, and I packed these needles in a sock project, and so I can knit during the conference, and they were shoved into a big bag with loads of other stuff. And then one day at the conference I pulled out my knitting bag to get my socks out to knit during the presentation, and the needle tip was broken. So I had to rush into London, central London, to find a yarn shop at the end of the day so I could buy new needles so I could knit again the next day, because I hadn't brought a spare set of needles, which is a rookie mistake, I know, and I should have known better. So that was my first experience with Lykke needles. They are made from wood, which is why especially the thinner ones may break if you're not careful, and that is the big disadvantage of wood needles for me. And that's why this time around, when I decided to try Lykke needles again, I haven't actually bought the smaller sizes. So I haven't bought them to knit socks with. I mainly bought 3.5 and 4mm needle tips because I use those two needle sizes quite a lot. So let me show you what I've got, and let me tell you more about Lykke needles and what I think about them. So Lykke actually do sell, as well as circular and interchangeable needles, they do sell straight needles and double pointed needles and crochet hooks, as well as swifts and yarn winders. Couldn't think of what it was called, ball winders, swifts and ball winders. So they don't just sell circular needles. It's worth having a look at their range and see what they sell. And if you're into crochet, they also sell crochet hooks. Their circular needles come as fixed circular needles, which means that the tips are attached to the cable, and they also come as interchangeable circular needles. So you can buy the cables and the tips separately. So that's the cable, and here's a couple of sets of tips, or you can buy them as a set. So you can buy a set that has several different sizes and several cables. They're not very cheap needles. They're probably, I would say, probably similar price to my Chowgu needles, I would guess. But they are very, very good quality. And I think that does show in the workmanship and the quality of the needles. They are handcrafted and hand assembled. They're made from wood, so most of their needles are made from birch wood. I'll go through the different types of needles they do in a minute. But they do also do some needles that are made from bamboo, but I haven't tried their bamboo needles. So these needles I've got here are birchwood ones. These pink ones are called blush, and they are pink ones. Described as salmon pink on the website. There's a light pink colour, and I did buy them because they were pink. And then they do this driftwood colour, which is more neutral. And then they also do an indigo colour, which is actually attached to my knitting, and I can't show you the knitting, so I'll try and show you the needle tips without showing you the knitting. So they are blue. So these are the three colours that I've got. They do a couple other colours as well, but I haven't tried those. But these are the main three that I've tried and the ones that I see on the website. I like the indigo ones, but I'll probably stick to buying the driftwood ones or the pink ones if I get any more in the future. If you knitting with a darker yarn, you don't like darker darker needles, then I think the pink ones are a good alternative. These aren't very, very dark, but they are slightly darker, but they are very, very pretty needles. So the needles are very smooth. They're smooth, quite slippery, but not as slippery as metal ones. This joint between the cable and the metal bit that holds the they screw the cable into is very, very smooth. So when you screw the cables in, you need to screw it in like that. All the ones I've had are screwed in quite nicely, no problems at all. And when you buy the cables, it comes with this little set, which has it has a pair of end stoppers. So if you want to put your needles, leave your knitting on your needles and take the tips off, you can screw these end stoppers on. I haven't actually tried the end stoppers yet. This is the first time I tried to screw it on. They go on quite snugly. I'm not going to screw them on completely. And then it comes with this little tool, which is similar to the one that Nipro do, that you put into a little hole here, and then you use it to push against to tighten the needles. And it's very important with all types of interchangeable needles that you tighten them properly. Now Nipro, Lickia and Chowgu all have a tool that you put into a little hole here and then you push against it. I've seen some people try and actually screw this. That doesn't work. You have to use it as a lever to push against. You can use, I haven't tried the little tools that come with the Nipro needles, but I have tried the little tools that come with the Chowgu needles, and they work in here as well. The ones that come with the Chowgu needles are basically like a T-pin that I use for blocking. So quite often, if I don't have one of these with me, I just use one of my blocking pins and put that in there. I've also used like a thin sewing needle in the past. Once you've attached it, it's a really smooth joint. So when you run your fingers across here, there is no catching. I haven't had the needles catch on the joint at all while I've used these needles, and I also haven't had them unscrew. So sometimes when you're knitting with interchangeable needles, if you haven't tightened them properly, they can unscrew, and sometimes even if you are sure that you've tightened it properly, they can still sometimes unscrew over time, but I haven't had any problems with these unscrewing. So I do quite like them. The cables come in this pink cable. So if you like lighter cables, if you tend to knit a lot with darker yarn, then it's probably a good idea to go for the lighter cables. It also comes with a dark cable. I don't know if the indigo needles come with a blue cable. I haven't, the shops I've been ordering these from I haven't seen a blue cable, so it might be that there's a special cable for the indigo needles, but I'm not sure. But this is a project on the needles at the moment, which I'm using the pink needles with the black cable. I've only got one pink cable, and it's a shorter 60cm long one, and on this one I needed a 80cm long one, so therefore is a black one. It doesn't really matter. I'm quite happy to knit with either cable. I don't think you need to use the pink cables or the pink needles. The needle tips are fairly pointy. They're not super pointy. In my circular needles video, I did compare the pointiness of the different brands that I'm going to be reviewing, and I think that either the higher needles or the Chagoo ones which are pointiest. But these are fairly pointy. They don't feel blunt, but they're not super pointy either. But I don't feel like they're blunt when I'm knitting. So far I've been knitting various things with these. I've used them quite a few times when I've been swatching for new designs, which I do quite regularly. So I have knitted lace with them, I've done stocking stitch, I've done garter stitch, I've done cables, and I've also done a tuck stitch pattern, which is actually what I'm knitting on the blue ones at the moment, which is why I can't show you. So I've tried different types of stitch patterns with them, and I quite like them as a good all-round needle. The needles feel warm in your hands and soft to the touch. They're not as flexible as, say, bamboo needles I've used in the past, but if you just, I don't want to bend them too hard because I don't want them to snap, but if you just push against them a little bit, there is a little bit of a give there. A lot of people have problems with their hands, like if you get repetitive strain injuries or pain in your hand when you knit, or you've got arthritis in your hands. A lot of people say that they are more comfortable knitting with wooden or bamboo needles. So if you, some of the bamboo needles I've tried in the past, and I haven't tried the bamboo needles that Lykke do, but some of the bamboo needles I've tried in the past are a little bit, they have a bit of a drag on them, so they're not as smooth as these are. So I haven't used bamboo needles for quite a while, but these wooden ones are really nice. Can't remember whether I said it, but these are made from birch wood. Tips feel smooth and the yarn slides along the needles quite easily, and they're not catching on anything. The cables are nice. They're not, a lot of circular cables will kink quite a bit. These doesn't feel as kinky as some of the other ones I've tried in the past, like Nipro and Higher. They're not as thick and as straight, as they're a bit more pliable than the Chagoo ones. Chagoo ones have like a metal inside that doesn't retain memory, so when you can like twist them up like that to store them, and then when you take them out they're straight or almost straight. I haven't had a problem with these sort of feeling really kinky when I knit with them, not that I've noticed anyway, but they are not as straight as the Chagoo ones. So over the last few months I've used these needles for several projects, and if I have a needle tip in the right size, they're currently my first choice. I don't have as many of them as I do my Chagoo, so I quite often knit with my Chagoos as well, and I certainly won't be getting rid of my Chagoo needles to replace them with these. But I do like these, they are very nice to knit with. I would be worried if I bought the thinner ones and I was packing them in a bag or something, or take a holiday or whatever, where it might get packed in and pushed around, because of the fact that I did have some breaks. So I'm not sure that I will buy the really thin ones for sock knitting and things, but for most of my knitting I tend to use 3.5 or 4mm needles, and they're perfect for that, and I am enjoying knitting with them. I do really fancy their interchangeable set. I had kind of promised myself I would never buy any more interchangeable needles because I have a big Chagoo interchangeable set, and I don't really need anything else, but I do really like these. They're not cheap, the interchangeable sets, so I may have to wait for a while. But the pink ones come in a pink case, the driftwood ones come in a grey case, I think it is, and the blue ones, the indigo ones, come in a blue case, and the bamboo ones I think come in a green case, and they are really, it looks like a really nicely put together case. So do check that out if you're looking for a set of good quality interchangeable needles and you prefer to knit with wood. Just to finish off this video, they are wooden needles. The brand is American, and the word Lickia, and it's pronounced Lickia. I don't know how British people or American people pronounce it, but the correct pronunciation from a Norwegian is Lickia. They're called Lickia. They are, Lykke means happiness or joy in Norwegian, and they certainly bring me joy when I knit for them. Made from birchwood. They're handmade, handcrafted, hand assembled. And one thing I don't think I mentioned is that the needle size is actually engraved on this metal part that you screwed onto the cable. So on this one it has like a gold etching, and on this one it is clear, so you can't see it as well on this one, but it has the American size and the millimeter size. So on the brown ones, the driftwood ones, and I'll drop my knitting on the floor here, on the driftwood size and the blue ones, because this bit is black, it's etched in gold and you can read it quite easily. On the pink ones, because this is silver, it's more difficult to actually see the size number. But if you get the blue ones or the driftwood ones, you can see the size number quite easily. These ones were the first ones I got, and I've had these for a while and I've used them a lot, and this hasn't, the sizes haven't faded at all. So I think because it's etched into the material rather than printed on it, I think the Nipra ones are actually printed on the needle, on the wood, and they tend to rub off. Well, these aren't going to rub off. It's the same with the Chowgood. Their needle sizes don't rub off either. That is quite useful because it means you don't have to get a needle gauge out every time you want to grab a pair of needle tips. So all in all, I do like these needles. I think they're very good quality. I haven't had any problems with any of the ones I bought, and I will definitely be getting more of them in the future. I think more sizes. I do think if you are starting out with these needles, getting the interchangeable tips and some cables, if you get say a 60, 80 and 100 centimeter long cables and a couple of tips in the sizes they use the most, then you can make different combinations of needles when you need a long cable or a short cable. It does give you a lot of options when it comes to what you're knitting. So rather than getting the fixed circular ones, I do recommend the interchangeable ones because you can buy the tips and the cables separately. And I do think that's a good option because you can then mix and match and then add to it over time as well. You probably, if you want all the sizes, you probably do save money if you buy the interchangeable set, but do also check what sizes actually come in the set, because they don't always go down to like the smaller sizes. So I haven't actually checked to see what the smallest size that you can get in the interchangeable sizes are. They may not go down as small as they do with their fixed circulars. So a lot of needle companies do a smaller size in the fixed circulars than they do in the interchangeable ones. So do check that out. If you like knitting with 3mm needles a lot, I don't think that is included in the interchangeable set. So make sure you check exactly which sizes are included. But highly recommend these needles. I like knitting with them. So do tell me, have you knitted with these needles before? Have you tried Lykke before? If so, tell me, did you like them? Did you not like them? Are you interested in trying them? Do let me know what you think. What kind of needles do you normally knit with? Do you prefer circulars or straights? And what are your favourite needle brand so far? Do you think it's worth paying slightly more for good quality needles? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and comment and subscribe, and also feel free to share this video with your friends, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.